Like to call to order the regular meeting of the Algonac Board of Education for Monday, October 23rd, 7 p.m. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We had a flag both directions, so everybody knew what. Nobody looked in the wrong spot, right? And a roll call, please.
Andrew Goulet.
Here.
Charles Busuttil.
Here.
Heidi Campbell.
Here.
Ray Priviloff.
Here.
Heather Arneal Roberts.
Here.
Phil Clark.
Here.
Sharon Stiltner here, Mr. President.
Thank you. Recognitions and presentations, Mr. Latos.
Yep. Something I had mentioned to you before, and I guess it's really last year when we started to hear a little bit about the third grade reading law, and it's an initiative that the state's done. And if you remember back many years ago, we did kind of an in-district one, our third grade reading initiative, and this along those same lines, but at the same point as anything, when it comes down from the state, it's not always a rosy good thing. It's more of, it feels sometimes like it's a punitive thing, like, you know, we have to do this or else kind of stuff. And there's some good things that could come from that, because it really has forced us to focus on K-3 literacy, and we've been in the process of doing that for the last year. At the same point, I think we're set up pretty well in our district. A lot of work to do with it, but I thought today would be a great day to have Kathy and Brooke and Jenny, I see is here as well. They've really been, Kathy, starting last year, has been serving on a committee through the county literacy committee, and really has kind of been behind this a little bit, so I thought I'd have her come in tonight and talk a little bit to you about the third grade reading law. So Kathy? Brooke.
Can you see okay?
That light kind of washes it out.
We could do it, we could fix that maybe.
So, we do this with kids. It's called a fist to five. So, fist is you don't know really much of anything about it. Five would be you know tons about it. So if you think about the third grade reading law, just give me an idea of what you know about it. Fist meaning not very much, 3 maybe a little bit, 5 you're really an expert on it. So. Okay. So I'm going to keep it kind of short. Feel free to ask questions. I didn't want to bombard you with too much information, but just give you a little bit of background on this law. So we're really going to just tell you a little bit of background and then tell you what we're doing in Algonac to meet the requirements of it. So the law was passed by lawmakers. They thought it would be a really good idea to say that all kids need to be reading at third grade level by the end of third grade. And I don't know, they thought that if they made it a law, it would just happen. So they looked at the National Academic Education Progress Test, and Michigan was 41st in the nation in reading at the 4th grade level. So they said, you know, we really need to be looking at literacy in Michigan, and so that's how this law came about. And if you just boil it down, it means that we want kids to be proficient at reading by the end of 3rd grade. And we know if we have proficient readers, we have kids who can perform in all subject areas. So it really is a good goal to have. It also requires that we provide support for our K-3 students. And it requires that if a child is not reading at grade level by the end of 3rd grade, that child would be retained. Now, if you think back in Algonac, some of you may remember, we've done this for a long time in Algonac. We provided a lot of extra support for our kids in the early grades, and we did have a time where we retained kids in 3rd grade if they weren't reading, because we believe that kids should be reading at a proficient level. So this just gives you an idea of what it looks like for a student. What this law says is that within 30 days of the start of school, we screen all kids. And so we take all our kids in actually K-12, and we screen them with an NWEA test. And then from there, our K-6 kids, we take a closer look at those who don't pass the screener, and we're looking at them with something called a DRA test. This DRA test requires the kids to read out loud to us, answer comprehension questions, and then we analyze what types of mistakes they're making in their reading, so we know exactly what to prescribe for them and help them out. So we screen them all within 30 days, and we take a closer look at those who don't pass the screener. And then some of those kids, actually, when you take a closer look, maybe they had a bad day when they took that NWEA test. And maybe they do pass that second level of testing, and so they just pass right up into regular classroom work. If they don't pass that second look, then we're going to provide extra support for them. And that extra support also means that we're going to start a reading improvement plan. So the teacher will notify parents and say, hey, you know, there is a problem here. We need to look closer at this child's reading ability. And we now need to work together with you to form a plan that's going to support this child. And so that's called an individual reading improvement plan. And that's done within 30 days of finding that there's a reading deficit. So those are going to start going out pretty soon. Our students also, if they fall into this category where they're getting extra support, that doesn't mean we're pulling them out of reading instruction to get this extra support. They're going to get everything everybody else gets plus some. And with that reading improvement plan, that means that we're going to support parents, and there's going to be a plan for them to do at home as well. And then we might have, there might be summer reading programs or summer school along with that. So when will this affect students? Well, it's in effect right now. That law is in effect. The first students who could be retained by this law would be students who are in first grade right now when they reach third grade. And I don't know if I said this, but what they mean by being retained in third grade is if that child is a year or more behind. So it's not just a little bit behind, it's a year or more behind. And then there are exceptions to that, and Brooke's going to talk.
As with anything with the government, we end up having some exceptions, people who aren't necessarily fitting into the box. And I'm glad there are some exceptions. So if a student is in special education and has an IEP, they are not necessarily held to this standard. If they have a 504 plan that affects learning for learning reasons, it would exempt them from that. If they're English language learners, so English is their second language, we're not expecting them to come into school, have a language deficit, and also be a proficient reader at the end of third grade. And also, if we've had a student who has been given intervention, like intensive intervention, for 2 or more years, and is still not reading at it, and has already been retained. And that's kind of what Melissa and I are focusing on a little bit more, catching them at a younger age. I think it would be easier for them to catch up if we're catching them in kindergarten and first grade versus when they get to third grade and they're 9 or 10 years old. So we're working hard to catch all those kids earlier on. And if they've been enrolled for less than 2 years. So let's say we have a student who just enrolled this school year and we haven't had the chance to give them the planned interventions that we have wanted to do for them. So we give them a little bit of a leeway. Also, maybe if they're on, if they're on grade level for all other subject areas, math, writing, social studies, science, and reading's the only thing holding them back, that could also be an exception as to why we would let them move on to 4th grade. And, or if it's in the best interest of a student, and they give this to us in writing within 30 days after we notify them that they should be retained. And that's going to get a little bit tricky because if we recommend retention in 3rd grade, parents have the ability to contact in writing Mr. Latos, and he will make the final decision on if they should be retained or not. However, we're doing our best to keep parents informed from day one. I can't imagine a situation that kids are going to be especially in third grade, and this is the first time parents are hearing about this. I mean, we're starting them as soon as we recognize a deficit and as early as we can, because we definitely don't want any surprises for parents, and we're gonna be very clear in all of our meetings what the intervention plan is and what the end result will be if we can't get them there. So I'm hoping for no surprises with that. And then the district decision, so Mr. Latos's decision is the final decision. It won't be a situation where parents are able to make the decision on if they're going to be retained or not. And that's more or less the policy that all schools have had in place up until now.
So, Reese has been really instrumental in helping us get all this together. They have a great team of people working with the law, trying to interpret it, and figuring out what we need in each district. And they've come up with some really good professional development for our teachers. We have 2 model classrooms set up in our district, one in Melissa's building, one in Brooke's building. And that is a place where other teachers can go and watch the things that are happening. And what the state has done is gotten all their literacy gurus together, and they've identified 10 essential literacy practices, things that kids should be getting every single day and are based on good research. And that's what all the professional development is based around. So we're getting some really great things from RISA. We've also done a bunch of stuff like revised our literacy plan that's been in place in Algonac for a long time. We have some new programs that we've started in our schools that revolve around literacy. We have this huge library program where we have all kinds of people coming into our library at Algonquin and volunteering time working with kids. So lots of really positive things are coming out of this bill, I think.
Well, some of those we started before the other one.
Doesn't care about that. So, are there any questions that you have that maybe we haven't answered?
So we started our third grade reading initiative back in, well, Dennis was here when we started that, and we partnered with Yale to do it, as I recall. So and you said we were doing that for a long time. Are we continuing to do any parts of that? Is any of that continuing that kind of dovetails into this, or did that kind of not? And how did the transition happen, or what? Or right?
Yeah, I think this has kind of re-infused that whole thing, that whole partnership. There are people from all over the county now, and Yale's included, in working on this together. And they've come up with just all kinds of stuff. They've put together a booklet for teachers. It's the guidance for the whole law, and it just details everything about it, including those 10 essential literacy practices that I was telling you about. And then they've started, this is a student success booklet that parents will get when they have an individual reading growth plan. And it's a really nice booklet. It's very user-friendly, and we'll be able to sit down with parents and say, okay, they aren't reading at grade level. All of our testing shows that they need help in this area. Here are 3 things that you can do at home. And then they're also putting together a whole collection of videos so a parent can go to a site and see, okay, if they're telling me to do this, what does it really look like? And they can pull it up and understand how to do it at home too.
That's good.
In K1 too, they're still doing reading growth plans.
Okay.
For kids that are at least half a year to a year behind and in danger of being retained. So they still do those where they call the parents in and have them sit down and come up with a plan together.
Right.
And the IRID, as they call it, or individual reading plan that the county has come up with is very similar to what our reading growth plan used to look like.
So we never really stopped doing that. This is just
No,
more of a takeoff.
We had put this into place, but there wasn't ever a teeth behind it.
Right.
So we could say we wanted kids reading at grade level, third grader, they'd be retained, but really if a parent fought it,
Right.
the district had no teeth to say, well, listen, we told you for a long time that we just can't keep pushing them on. So, most of our retentions are done in kindergarten and first grade. First grade being the optimal year usually to retain unless there's more issues than just reading. Maturity-wise, then you might look at kindergarten for some kids. But we really do try to retain at the kindergarten and first grade level at this point. But we've done reading growth plans for a long time.
Okay.
The process as a whole isn't here.
Right, yeah, okay.
Mrs. Hanners, I have a question for you too. Is a final say-so regarding retention the school? Or can the parents, besides having input, could they make the final decision if they should disagree?
Well, according to this law, they have a right then to petition Mr. Latos. So if the school says, no, this is in the best interest of the child, and the parent still says no, they can send it to Al, but Al is the final say. So if Al
Okay.
says the child is being retained in third grade, the child is being retained.
That is, okay.
So they can't, there's no higher level, that's it.
There's no higher level. In fact, the law speaks to that. It can't be appealed higher than Al. It can't go
Okay.
anywhere else.
Okay.
The superintendent makes that final decision.
Well, that's good.
Perfect.
You guys mentioned there were a couple of model classrooms, like one in each building. Is that where you're piloting kind of the end-to-end process of this? Or is it kind of all we've been doing it and we're rolling and it's not really in a pilot, quote-unquote, type mode?
Well, what they've done is they've taken those 10 essential literacy practices that are the focus for any professional development. They've narrowed them down to 4 for this year to kind of roll it out. And that's what you would see in those model classrooms, is just a focus on those 4 essential literacy practices. So if you were trying to learn about those or see some of those in action, that's where teachers could go and find out more about those.
Yeah, the law really has nothing to do with the model classroom. The model classrooms are just good teaching. So revamping, and we're not really revamping, all the stuff in those 10 essential literacy practices are things that we've always known to do. But after you teach so many years, sometimes maybe you stop doing them as well as you need to, or you need to take a different look at it and say, I could do this better than I'm doing it. And so, the specialists are coming in and working with those teachers so that those teachers can then train the other teachers to branch it out. So it really doesn't have anything to do with the plans, it's more just the content. The delivery.
And in addition, I was informed last week when I was up at the RISA that they very well might have a person that they will, and when I talked to Brenda Tennis, what she was talking about splitting them between Algonac and Memphis, maybe a 2-day-a-week one district, 3-day the other, and basically it'll be a literacy coach. It'll be somebody that's kind of trained and working with the staff to make sure that those essential practices are getting covered in the classroom. So I don't know specifics on it. She's supposed to get back with me this week, but she said a real good, strong possibility we might have that available to us. So.
Okay, I got a couple questions. On your PowerPoint, you said that as long as they're grade level in all the other areas, they will be advanced. Sooner or later, that's going to catch up to them. I want to know when we're going to stop them from going ahead, because if they can't read, they're not, sooner or later, they're going to get caught, and they're going to go down, and it could be too late to catch those kids. So, I mean, what's our plan for that? Do we have one?
It's going to be pretty unlikely that they pass all their other subject areas. And they have to prove it through a portfolio. That's a pretty rigorous portfolio. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't see a child being able to pass all other subject areas, especially science and social studies, if they can't read. So
Those tests are, at least what we've seen in the last 10 years, those are drastically more difficult to pass than the reading one.
Well, yeah, I'm just
Right.
worried that the older they get, the harder it's gonna be for them. If we don't catch them now,
Well, is part of the answer to Ray's question that the kids that would be the exception, having passed all the other classes, they would be in at least that second group of kids, or maybe even the third group with the extra help or the targeted help in the whole first place?
Yeah.
So there'd be some extra emphasis happening to catch it there, right?
There would be, but you're also looking at strengths and weaknesses, and that child by third grade would probably fall under a special education umbrella as well. If they're strong in all other areas but reading, it's a possibility they have a learning disability in reading.
okay,
So
I
you
just
would
don't
be
wanna
looking-
see them.
Right, you would be
push
looking
through,
down
and then all of a
at
sudden-
what's the block in just that one subject when they have many other strengths. So I think there'd be a lot
And the second language learning, you say that you allow them extra time. How long is that before we say you need to be able to read this or you're going to be held back?
Yeah, they're referring to kids who speak a different language, or
They
their
they get similar support as in special education students would. They're kind of under that same umbrella. And we partner with Macomb ISD to bring in help for those students.
The law doesn't clearly say if you're in this program for 6 months. It doesn't, it's not super clear. Is that what you're asking? Like, how long would they be in a program like that before you would retain them?
And in terms of when you're talking about English language learner too, they're also tested each year by the state to see that there's a different benchmark for them. In other words, they're tested in speaking all the different areas of literacy, but they get a grade every year, and so that determines how long we continue to service them through Macomb and all those kind of things too. So they're given extra support all the way through as well.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Anything else? Questions? Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate it.
very
Nice.
interesting, appreciate it. Consent agenda.
Make a motion that the Board of Education approves all consent agenda items, including agenda, minutes, personnel items, treasurer's report, and bills as listed, items A through C.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
Yep, just one item I wanted to point out to the board on B. John Loper, E2020 coordinator. As you know, we've always had that position in the district, and it's always been a contracted position. Well, when we started to work with RISA, and Crystal was in touch with the RISA auditor and talked, and remember, that's one where districts have gotten in a great deal of trouble for not having the correct instructor or having somebody in front of them. One of the things that we found out is it would be a lot cleaner if we had a Algonac district employee as the coordinator as opposed to a contracted person. When we looked into it more and met with our auditor, she said that would cover us and we would be, at least not in any jeopardy of losing pupil accounting money. So John's now basically just moved from being a contracted employee and he's now just a district employee. That's the reason for that hire.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Information items, Mr. Latos.
Yeah. Ryan, Mr. Belrose.
Yes, well, just a couple things. Last Friday, we had our academic awards for students from the previous year, for 10th and 12th grade. And we had, of the eligible students, again, 10th and 12th grade, we had 9 students not counting because they weren't in the high school last year. We had 38% of our total student body that qualified. So that would be 151 students. So it's pretty nice, pretty significant number. As well as, and I've talked to Mr. Latos, that we're, next board meeting, I want to recognize we have 32 juniors who were advanced proficient or proficient in all areas of their state testing last spring, the SAT and the MSTEP portions. So the English, the math, the science, and the social studies. And we're going to recognize them. They're all going to receive a Michigan pin that they'll be able to put on their varsity letters for them achieving that across the board. We also had one student in particular that did very well on the PSAT previous fall, because that is what enters you and allows you to be a candidate for the National Merit Scholarship, which is very competitive and very hard to do. That's Daniel Brezhnek. He didn't quite make it, he just missed it by a little bit, but he got a letter of commendation for the score that he achieved. And just kind of give you an idea of that, I think it's, they have 1.6 million kids that take it, and only 50,000 achieve that, which ends up being 4% of the total that take the test. So it's very high, so he did an exceptional job, and we did recognize him with the academic awards for that achievement. A couple other things. We have our band concerts coming up this week, Wednesday for the high school, Thursday for junior high, and of course we have our playoff game this Friday. It's going to be 7 p.m. Ann Arbor, Gabriel, Richard will be coming here. We do not know exactly when the tickets to get here. We'll notify everybody. We'll post it out there as soon as we do. We're thinking it'll be Wednesday sometime. But we'll get that information out once those tickets are available.
32 extra students will want to make sure and have extra cookies on hand.
Brooke?
This year, we started to revamp the Leader in Me program and re-energize it a little bit. So what we're doing is bi-weekly, we're trying to set up small communities within the school in hopes that, since the school is quite large, I'm hoping that they're able to connect with some other students of different age levels and also meet some teachers outside of their specific grade levels. So for instance, a student in second grade is assigned to Ginny right now. She has them across all grade levels, and that student will stay with Ginny all the way through until they leave in sixth grade. Every year, we'll fill in some other younger students to keep that community feel and give students another person to connect with and be, somebody they can count on throughout the years. So we started that last week and had a lot of positive feedback. The kids thought it was really cool, and the teachers felt good about it too after the first meeting. So I'm looking to see how well that goes in the future. Also, it's been really nice to have the teachers at Algonac this year looking to find some other opportunities for our students without maybe taking them on a field trip all the time. So already this year, I've had a group write a grant and go to Goodall's Park for Project Red. Mrs. Tavares wrote a grant and had DTE come in and talk about energy. Mrs. Fuller recently contacted somebody she knew that knows April Moss, the meteorologist at Flint News Station, and she came out last week and did a presentation on weather, being a meteorologist, and then of course she ended it with all the extreme weather things that are going on, and it was a really interesting situation for them. So they've been doing a really nice job with that. And also PTO is bringing us a presentation next week, Extreme Energy, and that will be at Millside and Algonquin, and we're hoping to see a lot of cool science stuff through that. And last but not least, we have fifth grade camp. The campers leave on Wednesday. They'll be back on Friday, and everybody's really looking forward to that. And Melissa even gets to go this year, so really looking forward to it.
She was just telling me how excited she was about that, yeah.
Yeah, I can see it on her face.
Oh, it'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa?
Have you seen the weather?
At Millside, we also try to revamp and re-energize our Leader in Me program as well. And with the little ones only being there for 2 years and just learning the habits to start with,
Thank you.
we started with an idea of having the students recognize their peers, and then I would recognize them at our bi-weekly assembly. So we didn't know how it was going to go, and of course, when we rolled this out, we had a lot of kids come to us with lots of interesting stories on how they're recognizing their peers. But we did have one group come up, and a student that has trouble making friends because he doesn't always make the best choices got moved to a different table, and two of his table mates recognized him when they said, "Well, welcome to our table. How can we help you do well?" They sound so grown up. They're 6. But we made a really big deal out of it at our assembly that that's what we're looking for is kindness. You were kind to somebody, you made them feel a part of it. And the one little boy came up that welcomed him. He goes, "Yeah, and he's doing a good job too. He's earning us marbles. He promised he's not going to make us lose any." So it was really nice to see that. They could, recognize each other that way. Millside and Algonac, the kindergarten through second graders, have also had the Clay Township and Algonac come out and do the smokehouse for Fire Prevention Month. Kids were real excited, learned a lot of stuff there. And we also had the Lions, Pro Beach Lions, come out with the vision screening truck, and it takes an image of their eyes, and they sent home vouchers for them to go to lens crafters and get a deeper exam and glasses paid for. Out of the 3 grade levels, 46 students were given vouchers, so pretty good amount of students given vouchers to possibly.
300 tested or something. I think he gave the number at 285 up there.
Yeah, I mean, it was all 3 grade levels, so
Right.
it would have been over 300, but, yeah, about 360,
Good.
350-ish right in
Wow.
there, so, but it was more than 10%, wasn't quite 20%. So they did really well. Going in there. And for the PTO, we also had our first fall carnival on Friday, October 13th. It was big.
It was.
It was.
It was, that was crazy.
We had lots of people come out, so many we couldn't keep count. It was a great fundraiser for the PTO. Kids seemed to really enjoy themselves. Got a lot of great feedback from the kids. So a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Do we know how much money they raised?
The carnival took in $9,333.
Holy smokes,
done.
good job.
Now we do have to take expenses of that, but
Right.
that's quite a pull for a 5 to 8. And I have to say, I begged some of our retirees to come out, so if you showed up that night, we had
Oh.
Mrs. Shemansky, Mr. Wallace, Pat Collins, Rita Hartner, Judy Muir.
Carol Cartwright.
Cartwright, yeah.
They were all up front handling the tickets and the raffles, and Martha looked drained by the end of the night. I walked up to thank her, and she's.
That's fun.
So if you see them around, say things that, help us out a lot. I did do a curriculum and instruction handout that a lot of it we've already gone over in that presentation. Talking about all levels being tested for NWEA, staff is continuing to be trained on how to run those reports, read those reports, how to use that information to form interventions. Jennifer Evans, like Kathy and Brooke were talking about, does have those 2 model classrooms. Our 2 model teachers are Stacy Reek and Dana Tavino. The high school secondary continues to use Atlas Rubicon to hone their instruction and document it. The district is also currently putting together the community portal. It is a lengthy process. We are working on that. We will have that done this year, so that way when the community goes to our website, they can click on the community tab and see the scope and sequence of the curriculum. So 11th grade English,
That's good.
what that scope and sequence looks like, so that they can have an idea of what the units of study are coming up for their students as well. We attended a Title I conference recently just to make sure those laws are always changing, to make sure we have the most up-to-date information. All Title I staff are currently delivering instruction, so we have our data from our testing and our screening. We've dug deeper. We're getting those interventions in place, and they are beginning. Parapros are also documenting what they're doing through their logs as well. So, and we're revising the LIT plan. I brought a copy of the book that Kathy already showed you, and on the back side of this is just the current, just so your knowledge when these individual reading road plans go out. This is according to what the county's doing. Now, the county put out one, and it really wasn't any different than our current one that we had in our old literacy plan. The difference is these are instructional levels and not independent reading levels. So it shows you any student that's going to be yellow or red is going to need an individual reading plan. And I know these numbers probably don't mean a whole lot to you right now, but as parents come in, we do let the parents know currently your child's reading at A, and so we help them kind of see how far along it goes. The ceiling level is just how high you test them to at the end of the year. Some kids could read 8th grade material, that doesn't mean they should be reading it. So we take them up to a ceiling and then plan to. Coming up, we do have a half day on October 31st. It is Halloween. The elementary will be doing a parade at 9:30 through Algonac. So kids are coming dressed up. And the second half of the day is going to be professional development. We'll be doing some mental health first aid training with community mental health. Adrian Rufenbacher is going to be coming out for us. And Laura Chambliss and Minna Terrell are gearing up to be in the schools and help with math and science.
Doug?
Good evening. So since I was here last, I would like to update on our enrollment in numbers since we are sort of a standalone facility. And since we've hit that 5-star rating, we've had a lot of families walking in off the street, as you can imagine. And so since the last board meeting, we've had approximately 10 to 12 new families, students enrolled. However, the number of students that have enrolled plus the number of students that are now on waiting lists is far greater. But that number I don't have, and I've talked a little bit about making wait lists for the infant toddler program, which has sort of been a little rocky from when I first started. But as of today, every single classroom, infant and toddler, now has a wait list. Every single one of them. So all of them across the board. And I've already transitioned the students that are age appropriate up to the next level to try to accommodate some of these families. And we still have a wait list, which is great. I think that's a wonderful thing for our program. On this Wednesday, our preschool students, including the GSRP program, will be going to the fire department for Fire Safety Month this October. Our students will be going to the high school on October 31st as part of their Halloween festivities. And on October 28th, we'll be hosting a cultural diversity class in our building. And so we hope to kind of, excuse me, I'm not feeling the greatest tonight, sorry. We hope to open that up to other centers in St. Clair County and Macomb County and Sandlot County to sort of spotlight our facility and promote the cultural competencies that are required of the 24 hours of continuing ed. Memphis School District actually came out to tour our building a week or so ago. They spent over 3 hours going through the building, talking about our curriculum, our instruction, our qualifications for our staff, to kind of take back some of the portions because they're trying to look at some of their star rating, but they have sort of a different setup. Instead of having their infant toddler programs separated the way we do, they actually hold all their infant toddler programs ages 4 weeks through 3 years old, I believe, in one classroom. So their scoring is going to be a little bit tougher, where ours was kind of spread out a little bit more. Let's see. We also had a popcorn fundraiser that we started in October, and this was a pretty successful fundraiser actually for popcorn. It brought in about $5,500 for popcorn. And so one of the goals with that fundraising money that goes into the internal account was to purchase new gym equipment for the students. So small tricycles, larger tricycles, to help those large and fine motor skills that the students need to be successful later in life. And Crystal and Jana and I were pretty surprised today as we were sitting in central office talking about some other things. Most of the tricycles came in and they're already assembled, ready to go into the gym tomorrow. So we're pretty happy about that. I'm going to start working on closing the books out for the 2017 end of licensing year. So Millside is on a separate license and Point Trumbull is on a separate license. So every year I'm renewing a license somewhere. So this year it's Point Trumbull's turn. And Christine Noel works with the state of Michigan. She's the licensing consultant. Has already said that this is a several day process because of how large our facility is and how big the program is. And so some of the things that they're going to look at are the credentialing, the continuing ed hours. They require 24 hours of continuing ed, 3 hours of cultural compliance. But more importantly, she spends a lot of time in each area of the room, and this is sort of the catch here. Any area designated under the license, including but not limited to bathrooms, hallways, the gym is under the license, just basically anywhere from the double doors back, right from Latchkey all the way back to the other end to the GSRP rooms. So she spends, she said, 2 to 3 days typically. So we're going to continue to work with our staff to sort of get the rooms ready, the environment ready, the less violations, the better, because the catch here is if there's enough violations or a substantial violation, it could lead to a provisional license, which means, unfortunately, the star rating then automatically drops. So there's a lot of financial numbers on the line, so it's important to sort of stay compliant and keep things up in the classroom. So we're going to start working on some of that. And last but not least, I would invite you, along with Mrs. Stiltner, who's already going to join us, on 6th, right? November 6th. So we're gonna do a little cooking project with our AM PM preschool class. My family has a farm and we grow all sorts of things. And one of the things that we have is organic grapes. And we press the grapes every year, and then we actually take the juice and pulp and can it and seal it, and we use it for all sorts of stuff. And one of the things that my family uses it for is grape jelly. I feel like this is such a great opportunity for our students right around Thanksgiving to learn about making things homemade and then contributing to maybe Thanksgiving dinner. So Mrs. Stiltner and I are going to work
Stomp
with the
grapes.
preschool. Yeah, they're already stomped, so we just have to get the cheesecloth and strain out all the pulp and leave a little bit in there because, you know, it's good flavor. But it's 100% organic and all natural, and all the students that participate from that AM PM split will receive 2 jars of jelly to take home. As part of their
Nice.
So if you're interested, let me know. It should be
Come and
very,
stomp
very
grapes with me.
Right.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Just jelly. Yes, yes.
Board reports?
A couple things that I'll share. I guess first is to give a little bit of recognition to something cool that I went to yesterday and had a chance to stop in at, where the robotics teams were volunteering with, the cool stuff is out there, volunteering with Michigan Kids on the Move, which is kind of a Michigan chapter that does, they take big wheels, like Power Wheels and things like that, motorized, battery powered, and they retrofit them for kids who have independent mobility needs, you know, for whatever reason. So it's kind of that, the group of kids who might need help getting around but aren't yet old enough or have established enough need for like a full-blown power chair or something like that. So I started a little bit with the Algonac robotics team along with other Blue Water Area Robotics Alliance teams that are all helping to do this. And they made 6 different vehicles yesterday for kids, and it was really neat. While they were out there, the kids who were going to receive them were there getting fitted and seeing them get built. And it's just a really cool opportunity that I wanted to share, because we got robotics students who are seeing firsthand like a really practical application of
That's awesome.
what robotics can do and things like that firsthand.
Awesome.
Cool. Second thing is Heather and I are signed up for the rest of our classes for level 100 MASB classes.
Awesome.
And you
We have
two,
4 days. It'll take us 4 days.
Yep.
and then you two will be finished with all of them,
Then we'll
right?
be done with all of them, yes,
Wow,
all
that-
9.
That was quick. Good job.
Very good.
I went to the Algonac Lions facility at on Mill Street today to get my hepatitis A vaccination, because on Friday I had breakfast with Mr. Foster. I had a coney and a cup of coffee, and he had rye toast and bacon and coffee, and they said the thing in the paper which made it sound like we were going to suffer a grisly death and go straight down to HE double toothpicks. We got there, and I guess they expected maybe 100 people, and over 700 people showed up there today. There was a line went in and around 3 times and all the way back around and through, and there were people there, everybody from old people, young people, anybody you could imagine, they were all there. So that was kind of interesting. If anybody has been there between October 6th and October 20th, you're encouraged to get a hep shot also, and the county health department is doing it for free like they did today, but they are not coming back to do it here again, but you can go to the health department by appointment, and you can walk in on Wednesdays.
What were the dates?
Between October 6th and October 20th.
School district helped out too, they needed some more forms.
Oh,
So they ran over to us and printed them off copies.
oh, yeah, because
Make sure to give everybody.
they had, they were gonna run out of the supply of stuff, and they had somebody like quick hustle some down from Port Huron because they had no idea that many people were gonna show up there. So that was kind of interesting, but yeah.
That's it.
I think that's it. Anybody else? Superintendent's report, that's you.
That's me. Yeah, just a couple items tonight for you. In your packets, it's actually the very last page, I believe, letter that Andy and I got with good news. as you know, for the last few years, we've been battling the 5% fund balance, and have dipped under, and kind of, with the help of our union groups, have tried to get back to that number. It's been a very difficult process for everybody. A lot of sacrifices have to be made. We officially are there, as you could tell by that letter, which is, well, it's nice on a bunch of different levels. It takes away a bunch of reporting that we have to do to the state annually, and I'm sure Dorothy appreciates that. And it's just where you want to be. It's where you should be as a district, and it hasn't been easy to get back to that part, because once you start into as we know, start into some of that deficit spending, it gets very difficult. And when you're dealing with student loss like we have been, it gets very difficult to get out of that hole. But the fact that we are back at least to the 5% and in a pretty good spot at this point is kudos to everyone involved. And like I said, our employee groups deserve really to celebrate that, because that was something that it was done a little bit on their backs too, and I do appreciate that. And hopefully at some point here they'll reap some of the benefits of this as we continue to move in the right direction financially. So that was important for us, big thing for us. Playoffs, we kind of talked a little bit about. Looks like we have a good possibility to at least host maybe 2 games, if not more, which is pretty cool. So yep, Friday at 7 o'clock, we'll be here.
What do we know about this team? Yeah.
Coach Barnhart texted me last night, and he's got a high level of concern. So.
The Free Press today, they were picked by the Free Press to be the sleeper team to win the championship out of the Division 5.
Really?
Yes.
Hmm.
And they're currently, the Free Press ranked them number 7 in Division 5, and we're not ranked at all. So
That's a good thing.
2 games, but they
That's a
lost
good
4
thing.
games to Divine Child. But as I told Barnhart that last year they were picked, their sleeper pick to win the state championship last year with Denby. So
We beat them.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Oh.
I have been doing my very best to get the word out about the upcoming election and the non-homestead. Told you I went and visited with the IRA board again, went and visited with the Algonac City Council at their board meeting, just trying to get things out there and inform people of what that vote consists of and just how it affects the students in the district. It's up on our website, on our Facebook page. Principals have involved their parent groups, so I think the word's out there pretty good. I've heard some very nice things, some nice feedback the other evening about it. So I'm hoping that that's beneficial for the district, but keep pushing it out there. Crystal has informational pamphlets still down at the central office of the Trifolds that has frequently asked questions, and also shows the ballot language right on there. So if you're going somewhere where you know you might bump into some people, feel free to bring those along and pass the word around. And then last, EEF tickets. Make sure we're keeping up on those. Still got a couple months yet, but if you're planning your Christmas list, and might be good gifts there, so feel free to see Crystal if you run out of those, or Jana, they have more of them. And they have them over there as well, so check in with them, and hopefully we get a bunch of those sold. And that is about it.
Thank you. Visitors and their requests? None. Action items? It appears there are none. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Who? Ray.
Ray?
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.